All right, guys, let's get into Irish whiskey. Let's see what it's all about, if I can find it. Now, I know most of you out there are like bourbon nerds and you don't really care for single malts or Scotch or Irish or anything like that. So this is going to be an intro to Irish, right? This is a Whiskey 101. So take that for what it is. Today, we're going to dive into a different Irish whiskeys that are out there. You might just think Irish whiskey is it's all Jameson, right? No, you're very wrong. You're right, but you're very wrong at the same time. Most people, when they think of Irish whiskey, they think of, Jameson. That's about the only one they think of. Sorry, I got a little sun this weekend. We were at the lake. Anyway. All right, let's get into it. I wrote down quite a bit of notes because I want to try to stay as true as I can. You know what I mean? So first off, there is single malt, not single malt. I haven't drank today, I promise. Single malt Irish whiskey. Okay, and that's going to be something like a Teeling. As you can see, this one says single malt Irish whiskey. One of the delineations for Irish whiskey is a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them are triple distilled. So they're distilled 3 times. That makes it very unique, ergo giving it a lighter flavor, and they use used casks. It doesn't have to necessarily be oak. It just has to be in a wood cask. So that's kind of cool. Most of them are using ex-bourbon or wine, obviously, but not a whole lot of them use new oak. We'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so the first one, single malt, just means that the ingredients is a 100% malted barley, distilled in a pot still, and it is produced from one distillery. Makes sense. It's smoother, more complex, stuff like that. This is the regular single malt like you would get anywhere else. This bottle, actually, I finished this bottle quite a while ago. I didn't really care for it. It was okay. It just wasn't great. Teeling does some cool stuff, but this particular bottle, I would have liked to seen something else with it. It was just a little too bland for me, but take that for what it is. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one is called single pot still Irish whiskey, which is the Powers John Lane edition. This is an excellent whiskey. I like that it comes in the little tubes too. That's really nice. I'm actually going to take this one out of the tube. That's really cool. A really cool bottle. Anyway, this is a special edition they only use pot stills. This one's 46% alcohol, but the difference with this is a percentage. Some people say 51%. Some people say it doesn't matter. They use unmalted barley. Okay, so most of the time it's 100% malted barley would be a single malt, right? So they use a portion, 50%, 48%, who cares? But it gives it a creamier, butterier taste, almost like a biscuit. Really nice. Biscuit in Ireland is a cookie, right? So like a shortbread cookie and stuff like that. Excellent, excellent. It's a mix of, and it's still produced from one distillery. I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to get off track. But this one it's going to be a lot oilier. It's going to have a lot more fat. And one of the reasons why they used unmalted barley, guess, taxes, of course. Yeah, they were evading taxes because you had to pay taxes on malted barley, and they said, well, guess what? We're going to use unmalted barley. So that's how they got away with that, and they found out they ended up liking the flavor. So single pot still, Powers, Redbreast, a lot of those other ones that you see out there, all single pot still. So if you see pot still, it means unmalted barley, a percentage of unmalted barley. Excellent dram, that one. Okay, so now we move on to, I don't have a single grain whiskey. Irish single grain. Teeling makes one as well. It's basically just not barley. Anything other than barley. Normally distilled in a column still, so it's going to be more traditional grain whiskey like you would see in Scotland, right? It has a lighter, smoother, approachable flavor to it. So let's move on to the other one. And there's a number of these. And that is none other than blended whiskey. blended Irish whiskey. And the one I have for you up front is Clonakilty. This was the Garrison Brothers. You know, I'm a Texas boy. This is the Garrison Brothers Balmoral finished. As you can tell, this is a fairly, um, uh, what was it? Spring break. I ran through this bottle and it was absolutely fantastic. I actually picked up another bottle because it was that good. But it is a blend of grain and single malt whiskey, right? Blended together. And this one was finished. There was only 1,100 bottles ever made. So this one, but it's also 58% alcohol. That's what's really cool about Clonakilty. They're not scared to go high proof. A lot of people want to go 46 or something like that. They kick you in the face with the proof. Um, it can be one distillery or it can be multiple distilleries blended together. Similar to Scotch, right? Similar to Scotch, only this is a blend of I think a couple distilleries. Anyway, so somebody in the comments will let me know about Clonakilty. They are doing their own stuff as well. So we'll see what happens there. And the next one is something that people don't really think about when they think of Irish. Yeah. And again, these are all killed bottles, and I apologize for that. We should have had a dram with it, right? And that is none other than Connemara, right? This is the 12-year-old peated single malt Irish whiskey. The name says it all, right? It is a peated Irish whiskey. So you don't see that very often. Back in the day, on Scotland and Ireland, all the whiskey was peated. That's just how they dried their malt, right? It was all peated. Now they have kilns and stuff like that. Now they don't have to. But not Clonakilty, Connemara. See, they have similar names, and I get them mixed up. Connemara is reliving that tradition and releasing a peated. And I did a video on a side by side of the Connemaras that are out, and both of them really good. The issue is it's not an issue. It's not an issue. It's really light peat, really lightly peated. So if you want to dip your toe into peat, Irish, and they are using Irish peat, not Scottish peat. So if you want to dip your toe into peat, Connemara is the place to go. Some people don't like it. They say it tastes different than normal peated whiskeys, which it does. To me, it's very honeysuckle and very light and fruity and all those things. The only issue, and I think I said this the last time, the only issue is this bottle was released at 40% alcohol. It does taste a little bit watery. I'll give it that. It does taste a little bit watery. So yeah, that's pretty much all of it. You know, they mash it the same. They distill it. They do distill it 3 times. So they make the first distillation, which is their stripping run, or they get all the alcohol out of the wash, right, or the beer that they made. They get all the alcohol out of it. Then they do it again. They run it again. That's called the spirit run, right? Well, what they do is they make kind of cuts on it. They cut a lot of the heads out and some of the tails, but they don't. It's a pretty wide cut. And then they'll take those hearts and redistill them again, right? And do a finer cut. Basically, what it does, it strips out a lot of the congeners and a lot of the things that are left over. Since they are doing it pot still, a lot of that flavor is still in there. So they do it 3 times just to lighten it up a little bit more. You know, just to make it a little bit easier to drink, I guess you could say. And the cool thing about Irish, and I've already said this before, is they use wooden casks. So I talked about methods of madness, or method in madness, not of madness. They do experimental batches of wood, like chestnut and all of these different types of oak or wood. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be oak. It can be, you know, whatever. As long as it'll hold whiskey, you can put it in there. It has to be wood, right? You can't you put it in a clay pot or something like that. But that's what's really cool. And with all Irish whiskey, it has to be a minimum of 3 years old, right, for it to be considered whiskey, period. So anything before that, and it's poutine, right? It's called poutine. But poutine is a little bit, we can talk about that later, but poutine is a little bit more like moonshiny, right? If you want to go there. It does have some sugar added to it and stuff. That's a whole nother topic. We'll get on that soon. I need to start releasing more content that's not review related. So if you have any questions or you have anything you want me to talk about, Let me know in the comments down below. Shoot me an email, whiskyshamanpodcast@gmail.com. I'll get back with you and we'll talk about some things. If y'all want to learn anything, I'm not the fountain of knowledge. I just know enough, right? So, and I want all that to go to you guys. So take that for what it is. I thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you to the sponsors, Bad Motivator Barrels and Z Smith Whiskey Mixology. And if you want to support this channel monetarily, I do have a Patreon. It is a monetary investment, but I feel, and maybe they don't, but I feel that the perks of having being on there is well worth it. We're fixing to do blind tastings with the group. I just got to get it set up. It's been busy. It's a summer, it's one of those things. But y'all be good, be safe, and until next time, keep your spirits up.